everyone, how's it going? So what are we working on today? Well, I have an oldie, kind of. I hate saying that because it's not that old in the grand scheme of things. It's a 99 Toyota Corolla. And the customer's complaint is when it's cold, it has a real severe hesitation when taking off. He says, I have to floor it, and only when I floor it does it go. He says, in between, when I hit the gas, it just kind of like blah. Best way he could describe it. He says when it gets hot, it's better. He says sometimes it won't do it for a period of time. Other times it just falls on its face when it tries to accelerate. And he says it doesn't have the power it used to. So I don't know if he did the work or if he had somebody else do the work. I don't know. But the map sensor was changed. The fuel pump was changed. The fuel filter was changed. Okay. Now, I'm not sure exactly what led up to all of that. Was it, hey, I don't want to pay diagnostics? Because it's incredible how often that happens. People don't want to pay diagnostics, so they think they know what's the problem. So they just start replacing parts. I have a great example of that where a guy spent over $1,000 in parts, brought him into the dealership on his Dodge Ram, an older Dodge Ram, over $1,000 in parts. Cap, rotor, wires, plugs, fuel injectors. I believe I did a map sensor and something else for a hesitation and a lean code. They told him right off the bat, why don't we diagnose what's actually wrong with this car first? Nope, I'm not paying diagnostics. Okay. If this doesn't fix your car, it's not our problem. It's on you. He was like, that's fine. I did the work. Guess what? Didn't fix anything. The guy went bananas. The guy was mad at us. He actually opted to pay the hour diagnostic fee. Put a smoke machine on it, the intake gasket was leaking. I don't get it. But anyway, back onto this Corolla. I tend to verge left and right. You know what I'm saying. So the customers complain about the hesitation. He did that other work to it, had the other work done to it. So he brings it to us. Says, I don't know what's going on. It's got this hesitation. Okay. So I take it for a ride, and I'm like, okay. I know these things aren't, Hellcats or anything like that, but it really felt down on power. So with the scanner, I was looking at different things that could affect it. It has no check engine light. There's no codes. So I was looking at map sensor. I was looking at TPS, ignition advance, and the O2 sensor, bank one sensor one. And everything was looking okay, but I'm like, you know what? That O2 sensor just kind of looks sluggish. So I went and I disconnected it, okay? And like I said, this thing, I could get it to bog, but if you went full throttle, it was fine. So a bog under acceleration, and if you go full throttle and it's still bogging, like, you just hit it and it's just like, whoa, and it's falling on its face, that's usually fuel related. But what's creating the fuel related issue? Is it the actual fuel pressure or something else? You never know. So with this, I noticed if I went full throttle, all of a sudden it was fine. But if I went anything from between idle and full throttle, it had a tendency to bog. And the power just didn't feel like what it should be for this car. Okay, well, what's going to affect that? Well, throttle position sensor can affect that. So I was watching that. That's fine. It's sweeping the way it's supposed to. But then I'm looking at O2, and I'm like, you know what? That O2 just doesn't look right. It looks like it's lazy. It looks like it's taking forever to respond. An O2 sensor is the main effect on fuel delivery. It looks to see what the oxygen content is in the exhaust, and it knows how much fuel to give it based on that, or how much to give it, how much to back off, whatever. So if it thinks it's rich, it's going to back off on fuel big time. So it was thinking it was rich, I believe. So What I wound up doing was I disconnected it. And here's the weird thing with this car, and the check engine light does work. And I have restarted this thing multiple times. The check engine light's supposed to be over there, and it does work. It does light up when you first turn the key on, but no check engine light. It still has no codes, and the upstream oxygen sensor is completely disconnected. But if you look there, sorry for the glare, O2 Bank 1 sensor 1, it's at 0.005. There's nothing there, basically because it's disconnected. I have no response. I'm going to accelerate a little bit, and you see there's no change. But here's the thing, I can't really show you, it's very difficult to show you, but now under acceleration, part throttle, whatever, it accelerates perfectly fine. Absolutely fine. I don't know if it's the air down here in Mexico or what, but it accelerates perfectly fine. With the oxygen sensor in place, it'd be like, and it would accelerate, just like, it just didn't feel like it had the power it should. Right now, it feels like it has the power it should, because the oxygen sensor is disconnected. So the computer is basically going into reading a default reading. Like in the computer, it has like a default reading, so this way you can still drive it. And right now, that's what it's working off of, is a default reading. So I'm going to order an O2 sensor for this thing, and I guarantee you it's going to fix it. So let's get this back in the shop. This thing's hot as all get out now. So we're not going to mess with the O2 sensor until this thing cools down a little bit. I actually burned the back of my hand trying to get down to where it was because I was in the parking lot there in Mexico. And and we just crossed the border. We're back in Texas. So we'll be back in North Carolina very, very shortly. But yeah, so we'll get it in the shop. I'll get that O2 sensor changed out, and then we'll road test this again, and it should be fine. But like I said, I really kind of can't show you the bog. It's just it's something I can't. In the video, it would never come out. You would never understand what I'm saying. So it's just me describing it is basically the same thing. So all right, let me get back to the shop. Actually, before, when I pulled out into this intersection on the main road right in front of my job, before with the oxygen sensor connected, I would have to absolutely make sure traffic was cleared because this thing could not accelerate hard enough or fast enough to get out into traffic. Now it's accelerating fine. You obviously don't want to leave an oxygen sensor disconnected because it's really going to affect your fuel economy. So anyway, right back to the shop. All right, guys, so unfortunately I was not able to do the repair on the Corolla. Rob wound up doing it for me because I actually have 6 cars that I'm working on at the moment. So I'm slammed busy. So he came back and he asked, is there something I can help you with? Something reasonably easy. So I had him change this. And it's a little bit of a bear to get to, but it's only basically there's 2 studs coming off the exhaust, and this slides into it. But reasonably easy to change, not terribly difficult. The nice thing about these is normally these come out relatively easy, where the screw-in ones sometimes can get seized. However, the problem with this style is the studs that come through sometimes will rot off and they actually snap, so that can become a problem. But let's take a little closer look at this O2 sensor. So as you can see, it's all sooted up, but the soot is probably because of it not running correctly, because this sensor wasn't reading the way it was supposed to, or something else along those lines. But Rob drove it and he said it runs absolutely perfect. So I'm convinced that this was the only issue at hand. I have seen faulty O2 sensors cause some really, really strange problems. From misfires to, I've seen cars run so rich they are pumping black smoke at the tailpipe because the O2 sensor is reading so bad, or incorrectly I should say, because it thinks it's super lean, so it richens the mixture big time. This one, I have a funny feeling it was reading rich, which shows rich, but reading richer than it was and actually pulling away fuel. That's why the thing was bogging and falling on its face. And then when you floored it, it goes to like default numbers that are already pre-programmed in the computer, and that's why the car would run fine until you went like anywhere between off idle to full throttle. So, all right, that's pretty much it. I have a lot of other things I got to work on today, so hopefully you're getting something out of my videos. If you are, hit that like button. If you couldn't, please subscribe. All right, guys, have a great day. Keep wrenching.